people like Mises and Hayek and Rothbard. That is where we've made the inroads, that the intellectual climate has changed. There's reason to be pessimistic about Washington, but the good news is outside of Washington. The good news is here. People know and understand what is happening, and those views are changing. When the views change, Washington will change.
That's right.
We still have vehicles available to us. Quite frankly, I was rather cynical a long time before you got cynical. That was back in the 70s. I was cynical then, and I thought, well, I'm going to run for Congress, and I'm going to run giving my speech that I'm giving currently and I've given for 30 years. And I figured, well, at least I'm going to get it off my chest, and I'm going to say I did my part, run one time, get defeated, and that would be it, and nobody would care. And I would say, well, lo and behold, there were more people there than I dreamed of. There were a lot more of you than I ever dreamed of in 2008. I mean, this is fantastic what is happening. It's much bigger. This is almost like a movement. I'm talking about education. Now, some people that I know and I respect, they believe strongly in education like I do, but they don't believe in political action, and I think that's okay too. But if you want to take intellectual material and an understanding and ideas, you eventually have to translate them into political action. The founders of this country were very, very well educated, but I would have to say they were willing to be political activists as well, and fortunately for us. We have a long way to go, and certainly I've talked a lot about foreign policy, and we do need a new foreign policy. We need, it can be... And when we do that, the only question should be, what is the foreign policy, and is it correct? Not whether it's bipartisan or unipartisan or whatever. We should have a new foreign policy compared to what we have today, but not brand new to our Constitution, or not brand new to our traditions, and not actually brand new to the Republican Party. What we need is a foreign policy of principled non-intervention. Sure what that means, and some say, oh, that means isolationism. No, it means mind our own business. Don't impose our will on other people. And it would also translate into bringing all the troops on, not only the Middle East, but Germany and Japan. Believed in that, and in recent history, even in the early part of the 20th century, there was strong movements trying to keep us out of war. And now it is so sad for us now, for both parties, to accept this idea of having preventive war that aren't even declared by the Congress. This is devastating. It leads to this war mentality where no longer do we respect civilian courts, and it's permissible to have secret courts, military courts that we don't know where they are, and they don't have constitutional rights, they don't have the right of habeas corpus. This is what is existing today because they say, oh yes, we're in a war. We're in a war against terrorism. And therefore, under war conditions, we can do this. This is very, very dangerous. The director of Intelligence, Blair, the other day, a couple weeks ago, was in a hearing, and the subject came up about what was our position on assassinations. And he explained to them that, yes, they have a position that they can assassinate. Only the bad guys, though. And it came out very clearly that we have now openly stated, even though they've been doing this in the past, openly stated that the American government has a policy of assassinating even American citizens without trial. But they have one way of determining which ones. If anybody is a threat. So if anybody is deemed a threat by some unknown individual in the administration, that he can be put on the list, and there's 3 or 4 on the list. But you know, they probably are some very bad people out there. But what's the matter with the courts? Why in the world would we ever give up the rights of our courts? The principle of habeas corpus has been around since 1215, and it has survived rather well. It took a long time to be established. The founders understood this, and it was a principle of natural law, and it influenced our Constitution. And now we're saying that we don't have to follow that under certain circumstances. Every time they say that, well, we do this only with terrorists, these are the bad guys, you've got to treat these people this way, they don't deserve this, you have to substitute a word. They're suspects. Yes, they're suspects, and they may well be bad, but you don't sacrifice a whole system just to get rid of one person quickly. What are they afraid of? Why don't they just, if they're bad people? We have had already 300 and some individuals tried in civilian courts that have been charged with criminal acts that they call terrorism, and they've been convicted and put in prison. But all of a sudden now they want to institutionalize this. Along with this, we have become, in the other parts of the world, we have become a nation known as a nation of torture. This is not the image that I want to see for our country, and we don't need it. That's not the image of America. It's not the image of our Constitution. We need to reverse it. You know, those who charge us with saying that we're isolationists, that we don't, we want to isolate ourselves from the world. That's the last thing what this policy is all about. Matter of fact, it's a much better way of intermingling with the world. And that is that if you don't fight with people, you don't tell other people how to live and what to do. You know, we have 2 choices that we give other countries. We go to them and then we say, well, we want you to do this. And they say, well, okay, what's in it for us? Oh, we'll give you money. And then they say, all right, we go to somebody else. We want you to do this. What's in for us? Well, we don't want your money. We're not going to do it. Well, one group gets money and the other group gets bombed. Why don't we just give them friendship and trade? That's what we need. Now, the answer they'll give you is, well, no, these are terrible, terrible people. I mean, just think of how horrible they are. Yeah, but we dealt with the Chinese communists and the Soviet communists, and there was a time, that our own government worked with Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden, and all of a sudden it's reversed. That to me is the most annoying thing, how they can take American taxpayers' money and support these thugs, then turn around and make a world war out of trying to kill them. Sanctions aren't worth it. Look how long we've had sanctions on Cuba. It's time we were allowed to go visit Cuba.